we're back from London. Okay, okay. We made top 8 with Prism. Okay. So this is my second attempt at recording this. I recorded it last night at about 11:30, and I wasn't happy with it because I was exhausted. So we're trying this again. So I'm gonna do a little bit of a tournament report, run down through all my matchups, how the games went, how the drafts went, and then go back, look at the list, and see go over some things that I liked, some things that I didn't like, some things that I would change if I was doing it again, and also some stuff that's going to be a little weird because the format's going to change pretty significantly after this week of ProQuests. So, day one. Go up day one, and I'm feeling all right. Prism is, I think, in an okay spot. I'm not too worried about CC draft. I'm not feeling confident in, but I get to play Prism. I'm just going to go play Prism and enjoy it and have a good time. Round one, though, we sit down across from Enigma. We end up getting this one. They let me have some things, they let me hit with some stuff that I don't think they should have. They kind of value blocked instead of fully covering the on hits. And I kind of got to do everything that I wanted in this matchup. I got a solid pivot. And I just kind of ran away with the game. They never got a board state that I couldn't break. I was able to break their traverse turn pretty easily. They got a 10k out kind of early, but they let me have it just on the first Herald that I sent. They didn't fight me on it at all. But yeah, this was just kind of everything was working. I was pretty happy with the game plan. It worked kind of the way I wanted it to, which is very early Herald beatdown. We get them into kind of a neutral state where we're vying for board control, and then we use Spectre to lock them out of the game. Is the quick and dirty version of it. But I just got to do everything I wanted in this game. Yeah. We end up getting there. I think at 2 different points in the game, I had 3 angels flipped, which is pretty pretty good for us. So, yeah, we end up getting that one. Round 2. This is Aurora. This is the other top deck that we're expecting to see. We're pretty comfortable in this matchup. We're experienced in this matchup at least. Choosing to go first to Aurora at the moment because of Face Purgatory. It's kind of a pain. But this Aurora, I just started with red Herald of Tenacity, and they let it hit for 3. So I get Soul, Figment, Arsenal, and a Herald, and I get to play through Purgatory pretty cleanly on my first full turn. But I end up getting this one after kind of a weird pivot where I Halo for Triumph on their turn. I leave 2 floating, and then I flip Erudition on that turn, and I go Erudition, Herald, set up another Angel, and kind of just mid-range them out from there. It was not the most decisive game by any means, but I'll take it. It wasn't anything surprising. It was a pretty standard Aurora versus Prism game where I went first and I was able to play through Purgatory. So, numbers did the thing. They let me keep Shariah a turn longer than they should have. Since I'd already Haloed, I can't get Ravages to ping myself to kill Shariah in response to them targeting it. So I got to draw with Shariah a second time, which is very good. It's very good for Prism. I'm not gonna lie. So that helped a lot. That puts us at 2-0. Round 3, we find a Zen. We hit all 3 of the big matchups kind of at the time. I guess Zen wasn't the most represented, but he was absolutely a deck you had to be prepared for. He was going to show up in some numbers, This was... I sent a Herald. I got to choose first or second. I chose first. This is because Zen doesn't want to block with their armor, and if they have any chi in hand, it's difficult for them to block out a double Herald. So you can stress them very easily on turn 1, or on turn 0. Excuse me. So I send a red Triumph, I think, for 7, and they block a total of 4. And Triumph hits. and goes to Soul. And I don't send another Herald. I probably should have, and I just grab like Erudition, get the Ponder token, go. But I end up setting my I end up holding and setting just a Herald and taking it. I'm probably supposed to just send another Herald. I was pretty sure I was able to. But it just kind of struck me as weird what they were doing, and I wasn't sure what was going on with that. It turned out their hand was Chi Sacred Art, and then they drew another Chi. So I took like 17 damage on the next turn, which was fine. I still think I actually messed up this turn 0, and I could have gotten another like 10 points of value or something crazy, in all honesty, because I would get like have an Angel Flip, still have a Spare Soul, and still have a Herald to send. I don't know why I held off on it. Maybe I like just didn't have the pitch or something, or I might have been on like a triple red hand or something, or didn't have Go Again and I had a Wrath. I don't remember at this point. I just know that I got it to hit, and it was weird because he then went Sacred Art on his turn. This was a pretty standard Zen game. I kind of let them do... I don't end up haloing for Triumph on their Sacred Art turn. I didn't want to burn Halo that early, and I think I didn't have a blue, which means I can't flip an Angel at the end of their turn to really get the full like pivot effect off of it. And I wanted to keep the Judgment Threat up for their Traverse turn. So we kind of go back and forth a little bit. They get to transcend another time or two, and they have a turn where they go like Chase the Tail into Tiger Swipe, and I've had a Pierce Reality out because of just, I think it was my Ponder token from Erudition drew me a Pierce Reality, so that ended up in Arsenal. It had to get played out at some point. It was a little awkward, but not crazy. But like they go through a full turn and they end on a Tiger Swipe, and it's live, and I'm like, sure, no blocks. In my head, the Pierce Reality is going to go, and they say, yeah, makes a Tiger, doesn't matter, pass. And I'm like, okay. Not like quickly trying to make them pass, but it's just like, sure. When the Tiger can just hit Pierce Reality. Yeah. I then Weavers a Herald of Erudition for 7 because Pierce Reality's out. They give me Kassaya Traverse and a 3-block, and I Wrath it over. And the second Herald in my hand is Judgment. So I go and I grab Figment of Triumph because I just don't want this Judgment getting popped. And I have enough Spare Soul to swing Triumph with its ability to give -2 on this turn. So there are 0 poppers that Zen runs that are 8s. So this Judgment is going to be unpoppable, and Zen's next turn is going to be -1. I send the Judgment, and he like value blocks it, lets it hit, and like sends back Stick for 2 and Aspect for 2. And that's the entire turn, and he IPs the Chi. So like we're so far up at that point that I just get to close the game out. It didn't feel great. I just kind of did the thing and punished the mistakes that he was making. Puts us at 3-0 though, and then we hit new. So we hit all 3 Mistvale heroes, and we hit Aurora. So yeah, we hit the top of the meta. We hit new. This ends up being a very long, grindy game. They had some very consistent... They were very consistent on the disruptive on-hits in the first few turn cycles. So I had to play out 2 Genesis kind of early, as well as like 2 Arc... or like an Arclight kind of early. So like my pivot turn ended up being pretty middling with Halo. It was not great. I wasn't super happy with it. And I really had to work to stabilize this game and like get my footing, and it still was like I was out of Angels, and I only had like 10 Heralds or like 6 Heralds left in my deck, along with the 2 that I was sending on the chain at the point of which I ended the game. And it really came down to like I had a Passing Mirage and a Pierce Reality, so I could basically make both my Heralds for every turn unpoppable because I sent Triumph on the second one. And it was just like Library did its thing, and then double Heralds did their thing. I did make at least one mistake in this game that I know, which was I missed a library trigger because I pitched the wrong card. I pitched a blue instead of the yellow herald. I pitched a blue herald instead of a yellow herald, and I could have set the blue herald and pitched the yellow herald, drawn to 5, gotten an extra card, and I probably would have ended the game a turn sooner just by getting out of the cycle a turn sooner, or breaking the cycle a turn sooner. I had a Pierce Reality out for all of that time, which really let me just trade up like +1 card every turn, even on 4-card hands. But this was a very long and grindy game. And honestly, my games against New have been closer than I expected in the last couple weeks. I dropped 2 games in testing to Easton Douglas pretty decisively. I think it's, as with most Prism games, it's closer than the life total said it was, but he just had like full tempo in both those games, so I was a little unsure of what to be doing, but it managed to work fine here. I think Easton's build was a bit more aggressive than other New builds are. So like Heralds might be a little bit better against him than Auras, but then vice versa for this New build, which seemed like more what I had come to expect. Although it was still a little tricky to navigate this one, but it was a long game, and Prism likes long games when we have library, so that's why we run it. This puts us at 4-0, which is kind of wild, because I'm feeling pretty good at this point. Not because it's like, oh, I'm running really hot, this is going to be a good day. It's like, dang, I'm 4-0 already? That's kind of sick. All right, I only need one more game to make day 2. Okay. Because going in, my day 2, or my goal was day 2. And my hope was get an invite for Singapore. And I wasn't sure how feasible any of that was, because I wasn't feeling good about draft. But this was a good start. I was very happy with this start, because I couldn't just like totally bomb out of the event. The worst I could do is 4-4 at this point. Round 5, we find an Enigma. This is Cody Reddy, aka Codeman Jack. Great player. He played really tight throughout the game. He had a couple decision points where he could take a greedy line and a conservative line, or a tight line, and he took the tight line, I think, every time, and it paid off. I did have a little bit of awkwardness with my game plan here, because I was still running Auras and Vestige in this matchup. And I'm not sure that's correct. I guess not that it matters that much longer. But I played out the early game pretty well, I think. And when it started to hit the like stage 2, like kind of the neutral game, I think I arsenaled an Aura 1 turn too early. Or not 1 turn too early, but just like a little bit too early, and I like kind of misread the game state a little bit, I think. But I ended up getting punished for that pretty severely in the end game, where I was locked out at least a full turn earlier than I should have been. But that was something that like started to come up in this matchup, and something I'll come back to later when I talk about probably the last game, or second to last game, I guess, of CC that I played. But I ended up losing this one, but I'm at 4-1. I'm very happy with that. We're going in a draft. I only need one win to make day 2, and I'm okay with that. So we sit down. We're pod 4, I think it was, and we end up drafting Arachne. What happens is I open my first pack, and it has red Mark of Black Widow, blue Assassin card, and then the 2/2 of the other classes. And then it's 1 generic, 1 equipment, and 3 Draconic cards. Like, just Draconic cards. Like, not playable in Arachne cards. So, what I do is I take the red Mark of Black Widow, and I ship basically 9 Draconic cards to my left, saying, y'all deal with this, enjoy. And I get rewarded when I get past pick 2, my pick 2, I take a 2 Sides of the Blade as one of 2 assassin cards. There's also a Den of the Spider in this pack, which it's entirely possible. It's correct for me to take the Den of the Spider if I'm looking at pure card quality. But since I've already sent a pretty hard signal that I'm in Assassin, I want to continue that and just not waffle and just be like, you're going to see 2 packs in a row with an Assassin card missing very clearly, and I took it over Den of the Spider, which means I want this card very badly. Two Sides of the Blade is pretty good for that, in my opinion. And I think like pick 3 Danger Digits or something like that. And I get a very good Arachne deck, I think. I was not confident at all going into this draft. I had drafted Arachne once and went 0-2, but I knew kind of what I was looking for, and that was the only D-React that I passed until pack 3, where I wheeled a D-React, which was kind of wild, in all honesty. But I ended up as one of 2 Arachne. I was very happy with it. It was a 3-3-2. And I end up with a good deck. And I play Fang. I believe this was actually Leo who would end up making top 8. I think he bricked on just one of his turns, and I had a pretty just kind of average value game for Arachne. It wasn't anything crazy, but it did the job. And I got the win, reacting over on something, or like I went. I don't remember exactly how I won this game, but it was there wasn't anything like standout in what happened in the game. It was just good value deck. That puts me at 5-1, and I'm psyched at this point. I'm hyped because I am locked for day 2. It's awesome. It's great. I've met my goal, and I still have 2 rounds to spare, so I want to see if I can get another one. Round 2, we end up playing another Fang. This was Mateus Saz of Team Poland, I believe. This is Arachne. I'm on Arachne, he's on Fang. And this game, I get to do the combo. I get to do the Defang the Dragon combo. Where I draw, I believe it's a 4-card hand that I convert for 16 damage, and I draw 3 cards. That's a pretty good turn. He holds 3 cards because it gets him basically entirely online. And I'm able to eventually, like, I basically just call a brick at one point in his hand, and it lets me play, like, just get a react over to win the game. I almost punt this at one point where I just like sequence with a dagger weirdly when I should have just used, because I had Arachne Funnel Web flipped, and I should have just used the Funnel Web ability for a +3 rather than like be really cheeky or something. It was just not worth it. And I almost punted the game on that, but I managed to get there because the power turn was just so insane. It was nuts. I was up like 17-7 at the end of the turn. Although they had 3 cards and they were going to put me to like 9 on the next turn, even though I blocked with 2 cards, I think. But no, the deck was solid enough that it was fine from then on. And so that puts me at 6-1, which is still crazy. I'm just kind of going at this point. I'm just going and I'm just playing cards, and I'm not trying not to overthink it, and I don't, I guess. But we sit down for the last round. It's against the Syndra. This Syndra player was to my right by 1 seat. Exactly. He was basically feeding me this Arachne deck. Come on, bud. Come on. There he is. His deck isn't stellar. It's fine. I think he might have hit a stumble or 2, but he had the like 1-for-7 finishers that are obviously really good. They're really efficient. But he kind of took a half turn, and it was the turn I had Extinguish the Flames in my hand, and I have Danger Digits and Starting Point. So I just like send a mark. I still have both my daggers up. I send a mark the Huntsman. He blocks with an equipment. He's at 16 to start the turn. And I go Extinguish. And then he says no blocks. And I say, okay, Danger Digits, throw the mark that's already attacked. Break it, mark you. Danger or Extinguish hits, go again, draw a card. And then I send another dagger. He doesn't block. I mark him again. I send a plunge for 5. Red plunge for 5. On hit, go again and draw. It hits. I draw. It gets go again. And I draw into Reaper's Call. And I send another plunge for 3. And he says no blocks when he's at 5. And I discard the Reaper's Call in reactions and end the game. He died from 16 because he wanted to keep the hand. Because I just kept sending 5s, and I hit exactly Reaper's Call off the top to get that. I could have done it with like a Razor's Edge or something like that, because I had 2 of those in my deck as well. No, that was the next day. I don't think I had any of those. I think I had 1 floating at least from sending daggers, so like I could have hit a 2 sides or a Reaper's Call. I had 5 Reaper's Calls in this deck. It was crazy. This was a deck I was extremely happy to draft and have. It was kind of nuts. But that put me at 3-0 in this draft. A draft format that I was not comfortable with going into the day. But something that I've always been kind of proud of, at least since I like first kind of learned how to draft, was reading my seat. And half of this was forcing my seat, and half of this was reading my seat and seeing that like the 4 or 5 people to my right did not want to be in Arachne, or like the 3 people to my right didn't want to be in Arachne, and that lined up with me pushing people off of Arachne. And if I needed to pivot, I would have. It would have hurt. It would have meant a very bad pack 2, but I was able to. I saw that it was open, and I started in a good spot for it, and I was in the right seat at the right time with the right packs. Pack 3, pick 2 was a foil Tarantula Toxin that the Syndra player passed to me. Like, it was my draft. I was just in the right place at the right time, and I can play the game, I guess, well enough to make up for the fact that I didn't have a ton of practice, which I will say this draft ended with me having 3D reacts, like 2, or I think it was 3 attack reacts, like a pile of good red stealth. I had the combo pieces. I had starting point and danger digits. Hi. Like, I got all the pieces I needed. I took them when I needed them, and I was very happy with it. But, like, I was very fortunate in this regard. I was prepared enough for this, which made this a little, like, which was just ridiculous to end this day at 7-1. The best I've done at any event is an X3, or like the minimum record to make day 2, which I had made day 2 of both the other PTs I'd played. Both Baltimore and Amsterdam I'd made day 2. Both Nationals I've made day 2. And then the Realm 20K I made day 2. But all of those were at the minimum required record, like scraping in with a win in my last round. This was by far the best I'd ever done. So I was just, at this point, I was like, all right, well, now what? Because like the CC deck feels good. It feels solid. I've had some events where I show up with Prism and it's like stuff feels a little off and it's not great. It's not lining up well. It's just kind of weird. And this felt like everything was working as long as I was making the correct choices with the CC deck. And then draft was just kind of like I hit it. So I was just kind of like, this is a good day. No matter what happens tomorrow, I'm really happy with this day. I'm going to be really happy with this event, and we're going to see what happens. So day 2, we go into draft. We're pod 2, and to my left is Gustavo, the Vincent player, who bubbles out. And then one more seat over is Pablo Pintor. One more seat over from that is Arthur Trehay. And to my right is Sean Dollywall. I looked at this pod and I'm like, okay, we got some hitters. Let's see how many games we can get. So we end up drafting Arachne again. I'd gotten a little bit of intel that PCG Invasion was on a 4 Syndra strat, and Sean Dollywall being on that team. I was halfway anticipating it. My pack one pick one was Red Alert Gloves, anticipating that he would be taking a ninja card, and I would see what else from my right was open between assassin and warrior. So I kind of hedged there, or I think it was still a good pack one pick one, even without that intel. But I wanted to see what was there, and he passed me a Danger Digits in pack two, and not much else. There wasn't anything crazy in the pack for me to pass. It was just kind of, it was average. It wasn't like a weak pack, but it wasn't a good pack for like sending a signal. Neither was my first pack. My first pack had like no signals, no ability to send signals whatsoever. But I took the Danger Digits just because I knew that if I ended up in Arachne, that would be very valuable. I also knew that there was going to be at least one Syndra in the pod, and I didn't want. There was no way Danger Digits was going to come back to me. And it was just kind of the best card in the pack, and taking other equipment doesn't really mess with signals. So I thought it was kind of fine. It wouldn't have been a surprise for Sean to see that go missing at any point in the draft. So even though it doubled up with my Red Alert Gloves, I was okay with it because Danger Digits is an extremely powerful equipment. And it also hedged a little bit into both Assassin, and if Sean didn't end up in Syndra for whatever reason. I think he didn't take a Syndra card out of that pack. If he ends up watching this, Sean, please correct me. But I remember it was a little strange, and it took like a pick or two for the ninja cards to start disappearing, but I wasn't like surprised when they did. And then pick three, it was, I believe it was a Den of the Spider is what I ended up getting, which I'm obviously like very happy with to see at this point, because it means the person next to him is not necessarily looking for assassin or warrior, and also Sean is almost certainly not. And there was a ninja card missing from this pack, I know, or by this point there were ninja cards missing, and I know that for sure. Pick four, I think I just took a generic or another equipment. I was still trying to figure out where I wanted to be. There was nothing crazy for either assassin or warrior. And then pick five was red Mark the Prey. I ended up very high on that card. I really liked it a lot. It was just a super consistent piece where even if you just like Razor's Edged it for a 2-card 6 that marked them, you were still pretty happy with that. But then it being a 0 for 4 on hit, go again and recycle the mark into just another card is just so good. It's a 3-block Scar for a Scar, which is nuts in a limited set. And it also puts your opponent in just really awkward spots of, if you block this, you're still marked, and you have to give me 4 to do it. And if I have a react, you're in for a bad way. And if you don't block it, you're going to take 4, you're still marked, and I'm just going to get to do something else. So like I really like that card. I really very quickly put a priority on it, and to me it was a signal that Arachne was open and that I should move into Assassin. From there I did, and I started taking cards, and I had a very good pack one as the other Arachne, because we ended up with 2 Arachnes again. The other Arachne was Pablo Pintor, 2 seats to my left, so I got some very good early Arachne picks here. This deck ended up being pretty good. The pod was 4-2-2 with 4 Syndras. All 4 Syndras were the 4 seats to my right, which ended up being pretty rough for them. But I was pretty happy with where I was at. The deck was once again very solid. I had like 4 attack reacts instead of 2 this time. I had a red stains, 2 sides, and 2 Razor's Edge. And I once again had 3 traps. This was a lair, a den, and a hunted or hunter. So, yeah, I was very happy with this draft again. I kind of fell into it, but I also feel like I actually kind of read signals on this one where I understood where people wanted to go, or that people at least didn't want to be assassin, and that I could take that lane. Because I think nobody had really committed to anything up to that point, and I was like, okay, well, they're not wanting to commit to assassin because that's a card where I want to be an assassin. And also the den being passed meant at least 2 seats to my right. We're probably both looking ninja at that point. That's a very high premium. I put a pretty high premium on any of the mark traps, in all honesty. So we sit down, and all of the Syndras are playing either a Fang or Arachne. I get my Syndra opponent, and I just kind of I have a better deck. I kind of outvalue them. I do have Danger Digits and Starting Point again, but I do not have Extinguish the Flames. I only have Defang the Dragon, which is fine. But I just my deck is better than them. I'm in a 2 of, they're in a 4 of, and yeah, like I just kind of outvalue them and just do the thing. This game isn't anything crazy. It's just I was in my seat, and I guess they were like kind of in their seat correctly because they were the rightmost Syndra, but their deck struggled because they're never going to wheel anything and they get nothing from the left. So they get like a pack and a half of good cards. But that puts me at 8-1. There wasn't anything really remarkable about the game. This I'm just gonna keep going. Like in my head, I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna see how many more they can give me, or I can get, I should say. Second round of the draft. This was versus Pablo. This was an Arachne Mirror. This was a very strange game. I very quickly realized that he was playing a fatigue game, and my deck was not set up to play a fatigue game. I had a very aggressive Arachne build, but he had a bunch of the 1-for-5s, and he was absolutely playing to that. And he very clearly thought that we were playing a fatigue game, and I knew that I couldn't. So I had to pivot into a very aggressive stance and pretty aggressively trade my life total away to try and win this, because I wasn't going to win it any other way. And I'm just starting to swing basically, and we start trading life back and forth because I'm forcing us to, and I have the reacts to do so, and I have the mark to do so. I only had 4 Reaper's Call, I think, in this deck, which is obviously still fine. I had a Red Whittle, which was pretty good. I remember getting that pretty late, and like pick 5 or pick 6, 7, something like that. Or maybe I'm mixing up the 2 drafts. But I had a Red Whittle that was allowed me to take some pretty aggressive lines. I traded down my daggers maybe a little too early, in all honesty. But I was able to get Pablo into a spot where I'm at like 9 or something, and I draw up my hand with a Razor's Edge and Arsenal, and it's Backstab, Red Reaper's Call, Red Stains of Redback, and a blue. But I don't have any Mark of the Huntsman. I have Graphene, Calicera, and Danger Digits. And I don't want to, and I need to, I end up blocking with the Reaper's Call because I need to preserve my life total. I blocked with the Reaper's Call and I dropped to 2, but he's at 7 when I draw this hand. And it's Backstab, so there's no D-Reacts that he can play to it, and I can pump it to 9 and Danger Digits for a total of 10 on his 7. So if he blocks for exactly 3, which seems reasonable, he can leapfrog to stay alive at 1 after I Danger Digits and pump, if he doesn't have a Sigil. Sigil and Calming Breeze are the only things that protect his life total at that point. I drop to 2. I play the Backstab. He blocks for exactly 3. I Stains it and Razor's Edge it to 9, and I Danger Digits. He leapfrogs, and he drops to 1. And in my next hand is my Hunted or Hunter, the D-React that pings for 1 health if they've played or activated an attack reaction. He plays Public Bounty, swings Calicera for 4. It was a yellow Public Bounty. I block for 3, and he Tarantula Toxins it, pumping it to 7 and shredding my my blocking card. And my Hunted or Hunter, as he is reacted, makes him lose 1. And in his arsenal, he showed me a Lair of the Spider, a D-React that he could not play because of Backstab. I cheesed this game very hard. Yeah, but it feels like a little bit like that's just the draft format, and it's interesting how like one of the biggest takeaways I had of like the draft camps was you need to have D-Reacts, and if you don't have D-Reacts, you don't have agency. And then Backstab just says no, you don't get agency this attack. You don't. I don't care if you have D-Reacts, you don't get to play them. And I think honestly, in that kind of Arachne deck, I would actually want two Backstabs. I passed a second one, which I could have taken, and I don't. I think I took like a Blue Reaper's Call over it because I needed the blue count or something. And I wish I had a second Backstab in that deck when I had four reacts because it was just so essential and so powerful. Yeah, this put me at 9-1. This means the worst I can go is 9-6, which I'm just insanely happy about. And I'm just kind of like I'm riding high at this point. I'm just going. I get the round. I go play. That's it. I'm not worried about anything else. I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm also at least 5-1 in draft, which I end up 5-1 in draft. This is still the best draft I've had at any of these 2-day events, and it's not particularly close. All of my drafts up to this point have been 3-3s at best. I think I 2-4'd Baltimore draft. Yeah, I think I 2-4'd Baltimore draft. Outsiders. So I run into the Fang. This is Gustavo. He has an insane Fang deck. It's nuts. It's so good. He plays like 10 mark cards in the first 4 turns or something. Like 10 out of 16 cards are mark or just make a fealty. Or straight up make a fealty. The deck was crazy. The deck was nuts. I think there's like a couple things I could have done in this game to use my armor better. I don't think they would have made a difference. His deck was just so good. But yeah, I fall to 9-2. A 5-1 draft I'm very happy with, and I get to go back and play Prism now and just send heralds at people and just bonk people. And that's where I want to be. I'm out of draft where I didn't feel comfortable, and I'm back to CC where I do feel comfortable. We sit down. We're at table 4. This is against France. He has a win-in on stream against Sean, I believe, for the last round. He's on Marionette. He's a very good Marionette player. He knows what he's doing, and he has Prism Tech. He has Battlefront Bastions. He has Weakest Links. He had at least 6 poppers. He probably had 7. He knew what he was doing. He was playing well. My Heralds of Erudition got taken away by Bonds of Agony very early on, which isn't like a great thing for me, but which it obviously isn't good for me, but it's not game ending by any means. It just means like one of my best Codex of Frailty targets is gone. My Wrath targets are get a little weaker. My kind of pivot stuff gets a little weaker, but it's fine. I can play through it. He gets to keep tempo for a long time in this game. I have to trade health pretty aggressively down. I'm trying to remember the exact sequence of things. I believe he double nicks a prognosis at one point to I think set me to 1 after I halo. And he banishes 4 cards because the prognosis hits and gets to banish a card from my hand, so he gains 4. And he goes up to 25. Yes, it does say I won because I did. I managed to claw this game back 1 herald at a time effectively. I end up with a weird block down turn where I just play a Pierce Reality and pass, and he just has he has I think 1 or 2 kind of do nothing turns where it's just like swing Hunter's Clave and I just like make a shield or something, and or I had a shield left over from a herald hitting, and like the Pierce Reality value just starts adding up, and he doesn't find another pick to pieces. And I eventually just get to trade down, and I have a Key Soul Shield I think at one point. I believe I went through all of my angels in this game where I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was all. I went through all seven of my angels in this game. These are the games where I'm happy that I ran seven angels in an aggro matchup. This is a Herald beatdown plan through and through. Their clock is too fast on average, and they have enough go again that they're not super inefficient when they clear Spectra. But this was an insane game. I'm sad this game wasn't streamed. It would have been nuts. It was so cool, and I managed to absolutely like wiggle my way out of it. And one of the last turn, or on the last turn, he goes Codex of Frailty, and I get back Red Tenacity, and he sends Leave No Witnesses at me, and I block for, I just like block with 2 cards after discarding a card, and then I send Red Tenacity for 7 at his 3 health, and it closes out the game. And just like, instead of like any other Herald, which might have gotten blocked out for 8, like gives up 2 cards or gives up 3 cards and gets to play the game, like the Tenacity just closed it on the spot, and had no angels left in deck. Like it was nuts. It was an insane game, and he played it very well. He had great tempo throughout the beginning of the game, and just like couldn't find the last point. There was an there was a point where just after it had gone like 1 to 25, he blocked with Tunic and Flick Knives, and I'm not sure, he had only had 1 dagger at the time. Whether that's because of retrieve or being missing or something, I'm not 100% sure, in all honesty. I probably should have asked him in that moment. But no, this game was fantastic, and it was amazing. And I'm also proud of myself that I managed to pull it out, because it was nuts. It was nuts. I feel like I had to play super tight on this one to get it. And I'm really happy with the way I played it. Round 13, we play the other Arachne. This is Slippy, and it's Aaron Shantz. This game is on stream if y'all want to go watch it. It is kind of just textbook what I want to be doing as Prism in a Herald beatdown plan. Like, I just kind of get to do everything I want. This feels like the name of game from round 1. Most Prism games, like, you're at 9 and they're at 31. And you have to claw your way back, because you drop to 9 to hold a 5-card hand that's gonna like push a Herald over and flip an Angel and swing it. But no, I was at 31, and Slippy was at 9. And then Aaron tried to Aaron took a line where he tried to force a Bonds of Agony through, hoping that I would block. I said no blocks because I was up 22 health. He was at 9, and in that game state, in my head, he had to do this twice, at least, for more than 10 damage to get me into a game state where I'm worried about it. And my hand was pretty immune to Bonds of Agony. I had a red Herald, a blue Herald, different names. If I recall correctly, they were different names. And then a ALS and like a yellow Wrath or something. So like, he couldn't take 2 cards from my hand. He couldn't break my hand. Everything was going to work. And when I said no blocks on the Bonds of Agony, and he had Tarantula Toxin and Shred, he had no targets on which to play them. And that was kind of the game there at that point. There was just like no coming back. And he came back afterwards, and he was like, yeah, I shouldn't have taken that line. That was greedy. I should have just like blocked one of the Heralds out and then went like Dagger, Codex, CNC, which probably would have been significantly better for him than the line he took. But no, this was just like everything kind of worked, and the only thing I didn't do was resolve an Arclight Sentinel. That was the only thing I was missing from like an ideal game. This puts me at 11-2, which is is wild to me. It's insane. It's like, I'm just kind of like losing it. I'm not like losing it at this point, but I'm just like, I don't know what's happening. I'm just going to keep going, but I don't know what's happening. This is crazy. Round 14, this is Andrew Cook. It's Prism v Prism. Andrew's a homie. I get it. I get the win. He is the biggest of homies. He's the GOAT. And I go to 12-2. this locks me for top 8 because there are going to be 4 of us at 12-2 at the end of this round, and we're all 1 through 4. So none of us can drop below 4th seed. the I don't know. I really don't know what to say at that point. This was beyond anything I could have hoped for. Any goal I could have reasonably set. This was beyond it. It was fully beyond it. But yeah, so 12-2, we're locked for top 8. There is one more round. I play against an Enigma. This is Max Diekman, who ends up being 2nd seed and I believe finalist. I again Arsenal and Aura at a bad time, and I get punished for it. I get forced to kind of pivot into it, and I don't like the way it played out. I end up losing the game for it. It was a close game. I was down like basically that Aura, but I figured after this game, I finished my game, and then I turned and watched Andrew play against Pablo, and I think I realized I needed to change my game plan, and I didn't like the Aura game plan as much into Enigma, or at least the current versions of Enigma. The decks are just a little weird, and the way things line up are just a little weird. They're not defensive enough for Auras to be as good. So if I was playing Prism into Enigma much more, I would be switching to a Herald Beatdown plan. I don't know if Library would come in all honesty. I'm not sure I love what it does in that matchup, and I'm very curious to go watch Leo's game against Pablo, both of them, although one of them I understand is a blowout. The other one, the quarterfinal game, I got to watch, and it was a banger. I got to watch the second half, and the second half was a banger. But no, this was very interesting in that my kind of hedge plan wasn't working. Where I bring in like 2 Mercifuls, 2 Genesis, and 2 ALS, and it doesn't work because I can't get like a double Aura pivot reliably, and I can't. When I find an Aura, I'm just like, it's a little bit forcing. It's not as forcing as it was before for the Herald part, but all of my early Herald beatdown sections felt very good. And if I could have just made an Angel on some of them, they would have felt great. So yeah, we end up 12-3 in Swiss. We end up 3rd seed. And I guess pretty quickly we'll talk about top 8. I played against Sean Dollywall on Aurora. I got side selection or turn selection. I chose to go first. The details of that are in the interview I did with Hunkaj. And the deck kind of just repays me. It balances the karmic scales for the weekend, where I have my only triple Figment hand of the weekend and my only triple red hand of the weekend, which isn't saying much. This is the 10th game of CC that I've played, so having one of each of those is not unreasonable in that amount of time. It was just kind of unfortunate timing, but I'd also rather have it happen in top 8 than in round 13, where I lose top 8. So I lose this game, but it's fine. I'm very happy with the way I played that game, I think. There's a little bit of a question of do I side in the 1 Reprimand or the 1 Soul Shield, but neither of those are cards I want to be resolving in the matchup anyways. But no, I'm very happy with the way I played that game. I'm very happy with the way I played this weekend. Overall, there was a couple things that I wish I'd ironed out a little bit more in the Enigma matchup and the Aurora matchup, but I'm pretty happy with it. It was. I was surprised that what the choices I made and the quality of play that I put forth, I thought I was capable of. I didn't think that was enough, though. I didn't think that quality of play was enough for a top 8 at a Pro Tour. And I can't discount the fact that I was in 2 very fortunate seats in my draft pods. I really was. But like still this CC record is a record I would be very happy with of 7-2. Well, 7-3, but If I hadn't made top 8 and I had a 7-2 CC record and I had an average draft record, I would have been very happy with this weekend. 7-2 and like 3-3 to go like 10-5. I would have been very happy with that record. That would be my best record by 2 wins. Because Amsterdam, I was 8-6. But this was just right deck, right time, right place, right gem luck, right draft seat, right draft packs. I'll take it, and I think I was still pretty prepared, given that I never felt out of it in any of my CC games. I had agency in all of my CC games, for sure. It was not the deck imploding, except for, I guess, the last one. But even then, I still felt like there were times where I was one card away from breaking back into the game. And Sean played that game immaculately, I think. Maybe there was like a slight error or two, like mistake from him, but they were like inaccuracies. They were not mistakes. They were small things. Yeah. So quickly looking at the deck, I'm overall fairly happy with the list and where it was at. I was happy that I added the extra Red Herald. I was happy with cutting Vambrace because it let me add another Yellow Herald. I didn't miss Vambrace whatsoever. The Enigma decks are much more attack action heavy than they were before. And having Dreamweavers in that matchup is totally serviceable. I'm not worried about that whatsoever. Wraths, I think I'm still happy with 5, but I wouldn't mind going to 6 necessarily. This Red Ravages should be a Tenacity. I want more Heralds that let me play through Purgatory, or just deny them Purgatory. I want the Dominate for that. That's been so useful in the past, and back when like Rosetta was just released and all the Auroras were still on Purgatory and Sizzle, these were Heralds of Tenacity, yellow, which isn't as good, but it lets me just like play through, just like hit them, like try and push through and not let them use Purgatory for full value. I had a number of games back then where I would send 2 Dominate Heralds on turn 0, and I would get Grasp and Purgatory out of the way immediately. And I was very happy with it like that. Figment count, Judgment is listed in sideboard here. I'm very happy with all the figments. I had cut War at one point before Memphis. It was wrong. War does so much for the deck. If you want more on that, I have other videos talking about the figments, and particularly the Herald Beatdown plan. I didn't touch a ton on figments in the Aura plan, but yeah. 3 Yellow Herald of Judgment. I'm very happy with 3 of these. They get extra text into Aurora now. They probably stay in some number against Aurora, but if they swap for Tenacities instead and I keep Ravages, these kind of become a little bit of a flex slot once Zen is gone. If Zen and Aurora are gone, then it's just Ravages. And then like Tenacities probably stay in just because things get weird when I get Passing plus Pierce down in matchups. 2 of Pierce, I'm still happy with that number. It was solid, good. Library stays, 3 Arclight stay, Reprimand. I went down to 1. And the reason for that is the meta is so D-React heavy at the moment that this gets blown out pretty significantly. It got blown, or would get blown out pretty significantly by Enigma, by Florian, not necessarily by New, but New isn't popping you as much. 1 is just kind of cheesy. It's a little cheeky. In the longer games, you're more reliable. It's pretty reliable for you to find it and resolve it and get the effect because you can pair it with a Wrath pretty reliably. I haven't felt like I needed to. If I didn't have it, I wouldn't miss it in London in particular, but that could change very much, or that could very much change in a week. Figment of Judgment stays for at least until Zen leaves. I'm pretty sure it still stays after that. There are weird matchups where it does a lot of work. The Earth Heroes, can do some cheeky stuff, but Vincent, it is still very good. It is still very useful. I'm still very happy to have it. And even just into the aggro matchups, having that 7th Figment in your deck, that 7th Angel in your deck, is very useful. It's very good. It stays. It's not going anywhere. Genesis Merciful, obviously, for pairing up with the Arclight, for the Aura package, and Parables. I wouldn't hate dropping these if I were to go back and run a Vestige switch list. They still perform very well for me locally because I have a local Victor that I'm very happy to run them into. But they didn't perform as well at this event as at other events. That's just the meta there. I'll come back to this in a second. I'll come back to kind of all of this in a second. 2 Soul Shields, I still like this number. 2 that all you got. I wish I could have made this 3, but I wanted the Herald count higher. It made my sideboards better for Enigma, but ironically, this gets better into Enigma as you switch off Vestige into Rapture. Getting to block a Spectral Shield that's 2 with this for 3. You just get 2 free health, and that's really good for you in that matchup. Those couple of points of health matter a lot when you're on the Herald Beatdown plan. Well, when you're on any plan, but you can run this better in a Herald Beatdown plan than a Vestige plan. 3 passings, I'm really glad I found the space for the 3rd of these. It's performed very well for me. I'm very happy with it. It's going to stay that way, especially after Enigma and Zen go. This is going to start becoming more important. Dreamweaver's Vestige. These are the kind of sideboard pieces. I'm still very happy to have them. If the deck tech that I recorded with the coverage team is up, the comparison I make is Dreamweaver's is 1 turn of Passing Mirage, while like Goliath Gauntlet is 1 turn of Pierce Reality. And I like 1 turn of Passing Mirage better than 1 turn of Pierce Reality, although Dreamweavers are not as good when I don't have as much Dominate. They only really pair with Erudition, so it's not always likely you get to use them, but I also still like them into Enigma right now if I'm on a Herald plan. So I guess kind of the big question for this is looking at Leo's list, because Andrew's list and my list are pretty similar. I think we're only 2 cards off or something like that. Leo's list is a Mono Rapture list, and it's not a surprising Mono Rapture list. I'm still not a fan of Red Wraths. I'm a huge fan of Essence of Ancestry Body, Red Essence. That card is sick into Aurora. I was looking at it before London. I did not have the time to test it. I'm really sad I didn't have the time to test it because the play patterns are awesome. It lets you drop into a 5-card cycle very easily off a 4-card hand very efficiently. Where you send Herald, it does the thing, you play the Red Essence, you arsenal a card. Very happy to take that play line. It probably means that the Passing Mirages come out, because you just don't want, and then Pierces get weird, but they don't interfere with Angels. You can still have an Angel up, so like what can happen is you go like block 3, or you drop a block 3 in front of the first thing, or if you have a Spectral Shield, or 2, you let all the Aura Ward eat the first attack, Essence pops, triggers, eats the second attack, Angel eats the third attack. And you're effectively like 0 or 1 card, or like you're 1 or 2 card aiding at least, but it's also stopping just 3 breakpoints, which is great into Aurora. It makes for very efficient blocks, and it makes for some worlds where you can protect Angels, which is really good. If you can manage to do that, you're in a very good spot. It's a card that I really wish I'd had more time for, and if I was going to run a Mono Rapture list, it was a card that I would very much like to slot in. 100% I would like to have that card in the list. It was a really interesting card. And I'm sad I didn't get to try it. I think that's almost everything I had on my mind. I was pretty happy with the list overall. It felt good. The ratios felt good. There were no like crazy outliers. in the deck or the matchups or my draws, except for I guess the last one. But even the last game wasn't even that much of an outlier considering the tournament as a whole. That was my only ponder. Like it wasn't even true brick; it was just a Pierce reality, which is like fine. If I get to keep one more card, I get start getting value out of it, and it's looking much better. But I no, I'm pretty happy with the list. I'm pretty happy with where it was, and I hit some good variants. But yeah, looking forward, with Enigma and Zen gone, the checks kind of come off on the fatigue matchups. I think Aurora is still probably fine into the fatigue matchups. She has a very good grind game, or like her just long game is just so efficient. Where it's like if she like as long as she's keeping the blues in the deck, she's going to get swing sword every turn and gets to be really annoying with that. And then like arc flicker is still a very good thing. But if the fatigue decks start coming out, we can't really run mono rapture lists effectively. If I was going to run a mono rapture list, I should have done it for London. And if I'd figured out the Enigma matchup, I would have done it for London. There's a mono rapture list that I can be happy with. I'm pretty sure. I like having the auras. They give me tools that I like having in my deck. But the at a PT, the meta like just kind of says you don't. The meta is different. The way you make the deck choice is different, and it wasn't necessarily correct for me to bring a switchboard. I did it because I was comfortable with it, and because I liked it, and because it was part of my Enigma plan, which I am pretty sure I would change at this point. Going into this week of PQs if I was playing any. But yeah, I think that's kind of it. I this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. I don't know. This is gonna be hard for me, in a way, because like I don't know if I'm ever gonna like really come to terms with this because I don't think I have because I feel like I was just doing my thing. I was just going and I played my deck and maybe I just hit some breakpoint somewhere where suddenly I got good enough that suddenly I was winning these games that maybe I wouldn't have before. And then like I got very lucky in draft, sure, but I'm really happy with the way I played in CC. I'm really happy with the deck. I'm really happy with the changes I was making in the sideboards. This version of the deck was one that I'm very proud of. And my play at this tournament is something I'm very proud of. So I don't know. I don't think I don't have good words for this. I can't choose words for this that accurately describe how I'm feeling because I don't know. This means I'm 100% going to be at Singapore, at PT Singapore. I assume I will be playing Prism still. I don't foresee she has so many tools at her disposal. I don't foresee her getting pushed out of the meta really. Just because unless a bunch of Brute shows up. If Brute starts showing up in big numbers, then we'll talk. But I think Florian is going to be a problem for the Brutes. I think Aurora is still a problem for Brutes, but I think Aurora might go probably by the end of PQ season. If she picks up about 20% of the PQ points, she LLs. So she might go. Yeah. But yeah. If you... This is just nuts. This is nuts. I love playing this deck. I love doing this. I love going to these events. This is just such an insane jump from 3 months ago when I was just kind of prepping for Memphis and I wasn't even prepping Prism because I thought there was enough Viserai that it just wouldn't be playable. And then Hunted meta ended up being so good for Prism because Syndra was a good matchup, Marionette was a good matchup, Fang was a good matchup, and then Viserai LL'd and stuff got a little weird, but still very manageable. Yeah, I don't know. I love this deck. It's fantastic. It's so much fun. I got to I love getting to play this deck at the highest level and challenging myself like this, and yeah, I'm gonna keep doing it. I'll be at Nats in Vegas. I'll be at PT Singapore. I will be at Worlds. I am queued for all three of those events now. I am intending to play all of those events unless something weird happens. It's probably going to be Prism. So yeah, if you've made it this far, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. I'm going to get back to work on the primer and do the next video, which I think is going to be Halo and all the different ways you can use it and stuff like that. But yeah, thank you for watching. Peace.